wouldn't want to encounter these titans in the water. Welcome back to another video, and today we will be covering fascinating sea monsters from prehistoric times. As you should know, paleontology and science is always changing and finding new information on our incredible animals, so this video can be outdated after release. Some of these animals have not been fully described yet, meaning they haven't been properly named, and some are only known from fossil specimens, meaning they can be very fragmentary with little remains, and can even change with their names and appearances in its research time, depending on what paleontologists find, so those specimens should be taken with a grain of salt. We have many different types of super predatory animals, from aquatic mammals like massive toothed whales, to marine reptiles who were longer than buses, to even large fish that could even eat a Tyrannosaurus rex in a few bites. Also, if you like this content, make sure to subscribe and like for more videos. Now at number 25, Parahelicoprion and Lanosaetus. Parahelicoprion was a massive buzzsaw-like fish and is an extinct genus of eugeniodontid holocephalid from the Permian, about 298 to 295 million years ago. Parahelicoprion was an apex predator preying on medium-sized animals and squid with its strange jaw. It kind of resembles a shark, but was more closely related to ratfish. This predator had a smaller cousin called Helicoprion, and both were similar in appearance, but Helicoprion had a different shape and different angle in the tooth whorls. The size of this massive shark-like animal is around 9 to 12 plus meters, and weighed between 10 to possibly 15 plus tons. Now for our second at number 25 is Lanosaetus. Ever wanted to know what a baleen whale looked like with teeth? This whale is a genus of extinct-toothed baleen whales from the late Eocene of Antarctica, about 37 to 33 million years ago. The wearing patterns on the cheek teeth, the molars and premolars, indicate they sheared past each other while biting, which would have given Lanosaetus the ability to slice through flesh. And serration wearing indicates a gripping function, being able to hold prey. The size of this whale was about 9 to 12 meters and 10 to possibly 15 plus tons. At number 24, we have Megalodon's smaller cousin, the Otodus auriculatus. Auriculatus was a massive shark closely related to Megalodon and lived about 50 to 35 million years ago in the late Eocene to early Oligocene. The appearance of Otodus auriculatus in the Apresion preceded the appearance of large marine archaeocities like basilosaurid whales. Therefore, it is likely that the acquisition of serrations and the switch from a grasping tooth to cutting a tooth is unlike its relative like Otodus obliquus, another Megalodon relative who didn't have serrations. This animal would prey on whales like basilosaurids and other animals. The size of this shark was about the biggest orca whales, about 9.5 to 10.13 meters and possibly 9 to 11 tons, estimated according to the biggest specimens MSC 20968. The teeth can reach up to 130 millimeters, 5.1 inches. At number 23, we have the biggest shark of the Mesozoic Cretatus crassidens. Cretatus is an extinct genus of large mackerel sharks belonging to the proposed family Pseudoscapanorhynchidae. Cretatus lived during the late Cretaceous, ranging from the Cenomanian about 100 to 89 million years ago. The discovery of a virtually complete skeleton suggests the genus possessed a body similar in form to the modern tiger shark, with a wide head that was equipped with powerful jaws and a stout body. It was the biggest shark of the Mesozoic and would prey on pliosaurs, dinosaurs, and other large animals. The size of this animal was estimated at 11 meters and 13 tons, for the biggest specimen individuals making the great white look like a mouse compared to it. At number 22, we have the biggest crocodile to ever exist, Dinosaurguy hatchery. The saltwater crocodile has nothing on this giant. Some of you may think that Sarcosuchus, Astorgosuchus, and Purosaurus was the biggest crocodiliform, but Dinosaurguy had many species, and the biggest one, Hatchery, surpassed all the crocodiliforms. This killer was an extinct genus of alligatoroid crocodilian, related to modern alligators and caimans, that lived 82 to 73 million years ago. Most of this skeletal is based on one of the largest individuals of Dinosaurguy hatchery, TMM 43632-1, which preserves quite a bit of skull material, 14 cervical and dorsal vertebrae, along with other postcranial remains. several osteoderms and ribs, plus a partial femur, metatarsal, and ankle bone. Regardless of how large TMM 43632 one is, the estimates for CM 963 are based on actual measurements, and thus are unlikely to change significantly. This massive crocodile would have been able to hunt a variety of different prey items, including large dinosaurs, marine reptiles, sharks, and even more animals. It was a top predator as well, having basically no competition, and even had one of the strongest bite forces out of all animals, around 100,000 newtons. Dinosaurguy hatchery would have been around 13.5 meters and about 14 tons, at number 21. We have probably the most popular marine reptile ever, Mosasaurus. Anyways, people, I should get this out the way. Dinosaurus and animals from movies like Jurassic Park and World are much different than the real-life ones, and no Mosasaurus from Jurassic World is not the real-life version. The Mosasaurus hoffmanni, the biggest species, lived from about 82 to 66 million years ago during the Campanian and Maastrichtian stages of the late Cretaceous. It was also likely the biggest predator of the late Cretaceous period, with Tylosaurus, another mosasaurid, possibly surpassing its size. Even the T-Rex wouldn't mess with this guy in the water. Mosasaurids are relatives of snakes and lizards, and these killers hunted just about anything like plesiosaurs, other mosasaurs, fish, sea turtles, and even dinosaurs that went too close to the water's edge. It could ambush prey at speeds up to 30 miles per hour. This snake-like animal was thought to be 60 feet long, but again, another overestimate. The specimen CCMG 10-2469 was a 4.7 feet skull, also known as the Penza specimen, and estimated to be 11, 12.2 meters, and 10.4 tons. Also another specimen, a very fragmentary individual called NHMM 009002, was estimated to be 14 to 15 meters and 17.6 tons. But this is very controversial, and the 10-ton and 12-meter estimate is much more reliable. At number 19, we have the Pliosaurus. Since there are many pliosaurs around the same size, I just put a few pliosaurs in this category, because it would be a much longer video if I included all of them. Just a quick rundown on pliosaurs. They are close relatives of Plesiosaurus, the long-neck marine reptiles. Pliosaurs have shorter necks and were more predatory with larger heads. Most pliosaurs lived around the Jurassic and early Cretaceous period. Unlike the mosasaurids, these animals appeared to be more robustly built with bigger jaws. The first pliosaur I will cover is Predator X, but now known as Pliosaurus funke. It lived about 150 million years ago in the Jurassic. It was thought to possibly been the biggest pliosaurus ever, and was thought to be as much as 15 meters long and 40 tons. Now that the fossils of this pliosaur have been reconstructed more, studied and identified as a species of Pliosaurus, more accurate reconstructions have now been put together. This has seen the speculated size of Predator X, now as Pliosaurus funke, estimated at somewhere between 8 meters long and 8 tons. This animal would have a strong bite force with its 2-meter skull and was the top predator of its time. Anywho, other giant pliosaurs should be mentioned, and some of these were bigger than Pliosaurus funke-like. Pliosaurus macromeris, Pliosaurus rossicus, Pliosaurus cavani, Abingdon Pliosaurus, Arambari Pliosaurus, Jurassic Coast Pliosaurus, Megacephalosaurus, Megalodon rex, Brachioncinius, Pliosaurus brachydyrus. Here is my list on some pliosaurs, and some ranged from 8 meters, and some are around 11 meters and 8 to 12 plus tons. There are many more pliosaurs, but here is an idea of some species you should know. At number 18, we have more pliosaurs. The first one at 18 is Monchirosaurus, and the second one is Kronosaurus. Monchirosaurus was a massive predator living in the early Cretaceous about 119 to 112 million years ago. The taxon has long been informally identified as a species belonging to the related genus Kronosaurus, even being named Kronosaurus boyacensis in a study published in 1992. This identification was due to the fact that the holotype specimen was banned from local access, and the descriptions were published with the help of photos. It is not until 2021 that a more complete description of the skeleton is made, confirming that it belongs to a separate genus, Monoquerosaurus. This killer was about 10 meters and 10.5 tons. It could probably have been bigger. Now, the next pliosaur was Kronosaurus queenslandicus. This guy is a bit more well-known than other pliosaurs, sharing popularity with the smaller Leopleurodon and Pliosaurus funki. Kronosaurus lived about 120 to 100 million years ago in the late Cretaceous. It had an elongated head, a short neck, a stiff body propelled by 4 flippers, and a relatively short tail. The posterior flippers were larger than the anterior. This animal was likely a very fast swimmer, being able to catch quick prey. This marine reptile can reach up to 11 meters and weigh about 12 to 13.5 tons, making it one of the biggest marine reptile predators ever. The skull was about 9.4 feet long, filled with durable teeth for crushing its prey. Number 17. We have possibly the biggest mosasaurid ever. Tylosaurus prorigor, the underrated brother of Mosasaurus. Tylosaurus was a genus of mosasaur, a large predatory marine reptile closely related to modern monitor lizards and snakes like Mosasaurus hoffmanni from the late Cretaceous, about 92.1 to 66 million years ago. The skull of this animal was about 5.6 feet long, and a specimen called FHSM VP 2496 could have been even bigger. This animal, like the Mosasaurus, had a slender build and a strong skull for ramming. Tylosaurus would have preyed on sharks, other marine reptiles, and fish. The size for this animal is pretty controversial, and there were sizes of 18 meters and 20 to 30 tons in the past, but the most reliable length for this species of Tylosaurus is about 12.2 meters and 10 tons. There was an estimate of a 15.8 meter long and 17 to 18 ton by Fideno with some skull fossil material. Number 16. Sachecosaurus vitae, another pliosaur. It lived about 130 to 120 million years ago in the Cretaceous. Sachecosaurus is an extinct genus of Brachioconine, a relative of Kronosaurus, and was a pliosaurid known from the Barremian of the Paja Formation, Altiplano Cundiboyacense in the Colombian eastern ranges of the Andes. The holotype specimen, MP1112091, was found in 2013, but not named until 2018, and is known from a near-complete skull and postcranial elements, including a complete hind limb and various vertebrae from a subadult. This apex would prey on other pliosaurs and ichthyosaurs, and this killer coexisted with Monoquerosaurus, so they possibly would have clashed for food and territory. The size would have been around 10 to 11 meters and 13.5 to 15 tons. Now at number 15, we have another one of Megalodon's cousins, and one of the oldest at that. Otodus obliquus. Otodus obliquus was described by Agassiz in 1838. This was a cosmopolitan species of lamniform shark that appeared in the Danian stage of the early Paleocene and survived until at least the Apresian and possibly the Lutetian stage of the early Eocene, about 56 to 51 million years ago. Otodus obliquus teeth have been discovered in Europe, Asia, Western Africa, and North America. Obliquus did not have serrations like most sharks have, meaning it would grasp its prey while pulling of flesh, then slicing it likely. It was an apex predator, preying on large teleost fish and early whales. Otodus obliquus was about 2 to 3 times the size of a great white and even bigger than a killer whale. Perez et al. Gave this shark a 9-meter estimate at 12 tons, and this animal could possibly grow up to 12 meters maximum and 15 tons depending on the private tooth collections. At number 14, we have our first ichthyosaurus on my list, Cymbospondylus youngorum. Cymbospondylus was an early ichthyosaur that lived between the early and middle Triassic period, about 249 to 237 million years ago. Cymbospondylus consisted of medium to large-sized species. Thus, some species of the genus reached enormous proportions. The biggest species was Cymbospondylus youngorum. In appearance, this animal kinda looks like a mosasaurus, but was indeed much bigger. It was around 17 meters long and was thought to have been 45 tons. But the mass was an overestimate because it was scaled using Shawnosaurus, another ichthyosaur that was much bulkier and different in appearance. If you calculate the body mass using Chauhusaurus and Ichthyosaurus with its 3D models, which have similar robustness to Symbospondylus, then it will be much lighter at around 22 tons, according to a well-known skeletal artist named Cheng Jinggen. Symbospondylus had a 2-meter skull as well. This animal likely ate soft-bodied prey and other marine reptiles. Number 13, we got the long, slender Basilosaurus cetoides. This whale was thought to have been a marine reptile, but was actually a very long predatory whale. It is a genus of large, predatory, prehistoric archaeocete whale from the late Eocene, approximately 41.3 to 33.9 million years ago. It was one of the largest animals of the Paleogene. Basilosaurus was the top predator of its environment, preying on sharks, large fish, and other marine mammals, namely the dolphin-like Dorudon, which seems to have been their predominant food source. It wasn't as advanced as other whales and was thought to not have echolocation, but made up for it with its dentition and ambush abilities. The only competition it had was a massive shark called Auriculatus, the shark we already went over. The size for this animal was around 18 plus meters long length and 17 plus ton weight. Some newer specimens might have this animal pushing with bigger sizes, possibly up to 25 plus tons, but we will see, and I will keep you updated. Number 12. We have fragmentary ichthyosaurs called Temnodontosaurus, Trigonodon bands, and whales Ichthyosaurus. Temnodontosaurus lived between 200 to 175 million years ago in the Jurassic period. This animal looked like a dolphin-like shark in appearance and was a top predator where it thrived. The specimen is only a vertebrate and is very fragmentary. But based on other temnodontosaurids, we can estimate this animal was about 16.1 meters and 21 tons according to paleontologists. Other estimates put this guy at a smaller 13.56 meters long by Paleonard 01 though, so it's very debatable. Pliosaurids are usually thought to have ruled the Jurassic era, but temnodontosaurids like bands seems to surpass every pliosaurid in size and power, but until then, who knows? These killers had a powerful bite at 9 tons of force despite its slender jaws, and had the biggest eyes at around 8 inches wide. This means this killer can hunt in deep depths as well. The second animal at 12 is called the whale's ichthyosaur. This animal I don't have much information on, but it is supposedly an ichthyosaur reaching 19 tons and 13 meters. At number 11, we have a very fragmentary pliosaur called the Harv pliosaur, and Megalodon's cousin who actually coexisted with Megalodon itself, Otodus chubutensis. This pliosaur is based on a single rib, so it could definitely be much smaller than we think, but scaling it, then it should be the biggest pliosaurus ever. We know at 26 tons and 12.5 meters. Now for the second animal at 10, we got Otodus chubutensis. Like most other Otodus sharks, this fish was massive. This large lamniform shark appeared in the latest Chattian stage of the late Oligocene and survived until the Langian stage of the Middle Miocene about 28 to 5 million years ago. This giant coexisted with Megalodon and even Leviathan. Fossils of this species have been found in North America, South America, Africa, and Europe. Its fossils have also been discovered in Asia and Australia. Chubutensis would have been able to prey on large whales because of its huge size. The differences between this shark and Megalodon was that Chubutensis has cusps on its teeth while Meg didn't. This shark weighed about 20 to 31.8 tons. It is thought to have been an ancestor of Megalodon as well. However, due to its coexistence with Megalodon during the Miocene and Pliocene epochs, it is regarded as a morphospecies. Being that big, it is regarded as one of the biggest macropredatory fish ever, just after Megalodon and Angustidens. This makes it one of the biggest predators to ever exist in the oceans, even being 3 times the weight of a Tyrannosaurus rex. Now at number 9, we have another ichthyosaur called Shastasaurus sicaniensis. This animal is an extinct genus of ichthyosaur from the Middle and Late Triassic, about 235 to 205 million years ago. Specimens have been found in the United States, Canada, and China. The Shastasaurus sicaniensis was thought to have been the biggest marine reptile ever, at 81 tons and 21 meters by Sander et al. In 2021. But this is an overestimate because they simply scaled up our friend Shonosaurus popularis, another Ichthyosaurus whose ribs are much longer than Shastasaurus, and its body was much more deep compared to other Ichthyosaurus. A professional named Darius Now used a better-based model to extrapolate a more reliable mass estimate using Ichthyosaurus tangae, another Ichthyosaurus in the Shastasaurid family. Its body is similar in geological detail and appearance to Shastasaurus. They scaled this animal with Shastasaurus sicaniensis and got a better mass estimates at 34 tons and 18 meters. Some sources give this animal a 40-ton weight. Also, this animal did not have any teeth that we found, so it was possibly a ram feeder preying on smaller animals. We also have fossil evidence that Shastasaurids rammed each other during aggressive confrontations, so this means Shonosaurus, Himalayasaurus, and many others. Giant ichthyosaurs were rammers as well. Now at number 8, we got Shastasaurus' cousin called Shonosaurus popularis. Remains have been found in the Looning Formation of Nevada, USA. This massive killer had a 9-foot skull, and the formation dates to the Carnian age of the late Triassic period, about 237 to 227 million years ago. This animal was very bulky in appearance and had a strange elongated beak-like jaws that resembled a dolphin-like crocodile. Shonosaurus also migrated and gathered in large populations because of prey, social, and reproductive behaviors. Despite having a long snout and thin-looking jaws, these animals' deeply rooted teeth can handle the high stresses when grasping large prey. The sectoral teeth on Shonosaurus were robust and capable of tackling bigger prey items. It would have been a top predator, and the size of this animal was about 15 to 17.11 meters and 26 to 38 tons. This animal was a predator, not a filter feeder, since it got a new makeover in its behavior and how it actually would have acted. This giant was very fast, according to a study suggesting some ichthyosaurs could travel up to 40 miles per hour in short bursts, also being a good rammer according to fossil evidence. This guy you wouldn't want to encounter. Number 7, we have a more predatory ichthyosaur and the biggest described macropredatory animal of the Mesozoic, the Himalayasaurus tibetensis. This animal makes all crocodilians, mosasaurids, and pliosaurids look like ants. This titan was the size of a humpback whale. Himalayasaurus is an extinct genus of ichthyosaur from the late Triassic Kulongongba Formation of Tibet, about 215 to 212 million years ago. This marine reptile was a relative of Shonosaurus and Shastasaurus, but was much more predatory. They had cutting edges on their teeth for ripping prey. It was also a top predator of its time and likely had no competition. Himalayasaurus had a 2-meter skull that was incredibly robust. The description of Himalayasaurus was based upon very incomplete postcranial remains, and most interestingly, teeth that were unlike any other Triassic-aged ichthyosaur that had been seen at the time. These teeth were larger, more flattened, and with cutting edges. It was estimated to have a bite of 83,000 newtons or more. Our friend here was about the same length as the average-sized Megalodon and Leviathan holotype at 15 meters, but weighed about 35 tons. Thought the Mosasaurus was the deadliest Mesozoic animal of the sea? Well, that title goes to Himalayasaurus. Now at number 6, we have another giant shark and the second biggest macropredatory fish called Otodus angustidens. Like its smaller cousin Chubutensis, this shark was another giant. This megatooth shark was the older cousin of Megalodon and lived during the Oligocene and Miocene epochs, about 33 to 22 million years ago in New Zealand and South Carolina. It had teeth measuring up to 3.89 inches in diagonal length. However, reports of larger angustidens fossils have been made. The teeth are noted for their triangular crowns and small side cusps that are fully serrated. This shark was about 9 to 13 plus meters and weighed about 10 to 28 tons. Even bigger specimens like CHMPV 9839 are estimated to be 52 tons and 16.5 meters, making it the second biggest predatory shark ever. But some of these estimates could be exaggerated though. This shark was exceeding some of the bigger marine reptiles like Mosasaurus and Shonosaurus. It was an apex predator and likely preyed upon penguins, fish, dolphins, and large baleen whales. It is very interesting to see many different sharks besides megalodons that reached colossal sizes. Now at number 5, we have the deadliest whale to ever live, and one of the rivals of the megalodon shark. Leviathan melvillei. This whale had the biggest teeth known out of all animals, about a foot long. This animal was a raptorial sperm whale consisting on many toothed whale species like Zygophyseter, Brygomophyseter, and a few others. Unlike the sperm whale, this whale had teeth on the other jaws, while the sperm whale didn't. The regular sperm whale is the biggest predator living today at around 16 to 21 meters and 45 to 95 tons. But Leviathan melvillei was also a massive predatory whale itself. It would have ate whales and large sharks, unlike the regular sperm whale that preferred giant squid and smaller animals. Leviathan lived 9.9 to 5 million years ago in the Miocene to Pliocene. The spermaceti organ contained in that basin is thought to have been used in echolocation and communication, or for ramming prey and other sperm whales. Leviathan also competed with the biggest shark Otodus megalodon, but would likely stay clear from adults, since the biggest megalodons surpass even the biggest Leviathan that we know of. Leviathan is about 40 to 50 tons and 12 to 15 meters according to its holotype specimen. Number 4. We have a fragmentary ichthyosaur nicknamed the Swiss tyrant. This underrated killer is thought to have been a relative of Himlayosaurus, and is only known from a large tooth and some vertebrae. The Swiss tyrant lived about 205 million years ago in the Swiss Alps. It is the biggest Mesozoic predator ever at 55 tons and 18.17 meters, scaling with Himlayosaurus, if the estimates are what they say they are by Darius Now. Being this big, it would have been the size of the average megalodon shark. Like Himlayosaurus, it was a top predator and is very overlooked, since it isn't yet described yet. Also, this killer could have a bite force of 112,000 newtons, scaling from Temnodontosaurus. The Swiss tyrant is still being researched and is not talked about by the public much, so until more information comes, I will speak more on it. Number 3. This animal is fairly new and was a massive whale called Prehistoric colossus. The first bones of Prehistoric colossus, an extinct species of early whale, were discovered in 2010 by paleontologist Mario Urbina in the Ica Desert of southern Peru. Urbina and an international team spent years excavating the fossils from a steep, rocky slope, uncovering 13 vertebrae, 4 ribs, and part of a pelvis. The bones are unusually dense, and some of the vertebrae weigh 100 kilograms each. The discovery was described in a paper published in Nature in 2023. Prehistoric is an extinct genus of early whale from Peru that lived during the Bartonian age of the Middle Eocene, about 39.8 to 37.84 million years ago. It was a basilosaurid and was one of the biggest whales ever. It probably hunted small animals, but nobody knows for sure, because it could have been a bottom feeder or active hunter. Prehistoric colossus was thought to be the biggest animal ever at 340 tons, but that was an overestimate according to Bianucci et al. 2023. The new GDI gave this animal a 65 to possibly 85 ton estimate at 18 meters long. Until more research, we can only speculate what this animal ate, since it was a very fragmentary animal. Number 2. We got a new described animal called Lilstock monster, but now known as Ichthyotitan severnensis. In this number 2 spot, I will also mention some other massive Ichthyosaurus, but are very fragmentary and are changing in anatomy all the time, so I cannot really find a reliable size for them yet, so take the size estimates like a grain of salt because of controversy within them. After I talk about Ichthyotitan, we will discuss the animals called Huenes ichthyosaur and Gijuichthyosaurus tangai. The first one at number 2 is Lilstock monster, but now known as Ichthyotitan, and this beast lived about 205 million years ago in the UK in the Triassic. Ichthyotitan was about 43 to 108 tons and 26 meters long. This means it was even longer than some blue whales, but not quite as heavy. Ichthyotitan severnensis is a newly described species of gigantic Shastasaurid, maybe an overlumped family. Lomax et al. Denote that caution should be used when scaling these specimens, as there are only very fragmentary remains, mainly incomplete jawbones. And we are not sure on the diet, but it could have been a ram feeder. Now for the next animals, called the Huenus Ichthyosaur. I am not very informative on this animal, but we do know that it is a giant ichthyosaurus. It might actually be Shawnosaurus popularis, but until more reason is done, then I am not sure. Sizes of this animal was about 22 meters and 80 tons. Take this with a grain of salt. The next animal was Ichthyosaurus tangai. This animal was thought to have been smaller at around 5 to 10 meters, but other sources suggest it was pushing 25 meters and 100-something tons by professionals. But until then, I will take this with a grain of salt. Now at number 1, we have the biggest described predator to ever have lived, the Otodus Megalodon, aka the biggest shark to ever exist that we know of, that can eat a killer whale and great white in 1 to 2 bites. The Otodus Megalodon was formerly thought to be a member of the family Lamnidae and a close relative of the great white shark, Carcharodon carcharias, but has been reclassified into the extinct family Otodontidae. This behemoth lived about 23 to 3.6 million years ago. Fossil remains of Megalodon have been found in shallow tropical and temperate seas along the coastlines and continental shelf regions of all continents except Antarctica. This colossal had 7-inch teeth with serrations. Their teeth were thick and robust, built for grabbing prey and breaking bone, and their large jaws could exert a bite force of up to 108,500 to 200,000 plus newtons. Megalodon preyed upon just about anything, to seals, fish, sharks, giant sea turtles, and even large whales. They would hunted similar to white sharks, ambushing from below. When targeted toothed whales, the Meg will target the head to disable them from biting, and for bigger whales, they will try to target the tail or fin area to immobilize the whales from escaping and going for the killing blow while bleeding its prey or enemy out. This shark was also capable of taking down whales the size of blue whales, according to this study by Steve. Anywho, Megalodon has many depictions of what it actually looked like. We have some Megs looking like a great white that is scaled up, or even a giant bulky shark, and many more different looks. A study on Gracile Meg by Sternus et al. Was published using vertebrae width scaling, but it has some controversy and criticisms. It basically means the Meg was much longer than previously thought. If this is true, then the size will increase for all the specimens. Here is an overview of the sizes using the Gracile Megalodon. Some of these Megs push 20 to 24 meters and 100 to 164 tons. Evio, a paleo artist, has a new depiction of a Megalodon. As for right now, most paleontologists and paleo artists are accepting this Megalodon looking more like a giant poor beagle-like shark with a longer build. But until more research is done, we can only speculate. This shark was massive, and extrapolating from a vertebral column and reconstructing a 3D model with dimensions based on all extant lamnid sharks suggests that a 16-meter-long, 52-feet individual may have been much larger than previous estimates, reaching an excess of 53 to possibly 70 tons average, depending on the Megalodon depiction you use for the IRSMB 9893 specimen. Also, a study on colder population Megs suggests they had different metabolism so they could get even more bigger. The bigger specimens like GHC6 were over 20 meters and 122 plus tons. MNHN CP62 was estimated to be 23 meters and 146 tons as well. This predator wouldn't have any competitors besides Chubutensis and a toothed macroraptorial whale, the Leviathan. Since the recent sizes, the Leviathan was likely a prey item for the Meg, and likely not much of a threat to it if the Meg is pushing the colossal sizes that was mentioned. A 40 to 50 ton Leviathan wouldn't mess with a Megalodon pushing 70 to 100 plus tons, so that debate shouldn't even be talked about since most sharks, even at similar weights from my view, are more deadlier than most whales. The Meg likely went extinct to climate change, making its food source move away. This is the biggest known macro-predatory described animal to ever live for now. Thought Megalodon was the biggest? Well, we might have animals that could surpass Megalodon, but we are not 100% sure. But they have a big chance to. Austcolossus and Hector's ichthyosaur. These animals are very fragmentary, and it is hard to actually know what they looked like and get the exact sizes of them. Yes, we have a predator possibly bigger than Megalodon, but we cannot say for sure yet. They are thought to have been ram feeders or macropredators, as of right now since there are no teeth found yet. Austcolossus was a massive shastasaurid ichthyosaur that thrived about 205 million years ago in the UK in the Triassic. It is known by very fragmentary remains and is still being looked at. Austcolossus is thought to be about 167 to 257 tons and 35 meters, making it possibly one of the biggest animals to ever. And it was still growing. But remember, these are just estimates and could change. Now the next and final titan of this list is Hector's ichthyosaur. Now we have possibly the biggest animal to ever live. This massive, dubious animal ichthyosaur lived somewhere in the Triassic period in New Zealand. The specimens are missing, so not much is known from this marine reptile. What we do know is it was giant and possibly a shastasaurid, a relative of Shonosaurus. Like Ichthyosaur and Austcolossus was either a ram feeder or macropredatory animal. These animals are very overlooked and are the biggest marine reptiles. Hector's is extremely dubious, but some estimates out it at 120 to 335 tons and 35 to 40 plus meters. That is an insane weight and length for any animal, so we do not know, guys. Anyways, people, that will wrap it up for my top 25 sea monsters for now, and down the road the list can change because of new research. This video took a while to make, and make sure to check out the paleo artist I mentioned in the video. They work very hard on their art and are very talented, so please show support. If you have any questions, I will try my best to give reliable replies. Please like and subscribe for more content and more videos on the way.